I get thirsty, so I bring that with. First of all, thank you for inviting me. I actually rarely ever speak in June because it's the month before our annual convention, and there's a lot to do to put the show on. But the idea of coming here and talking with you and meeting with you is such an honor, so I say yes. So thank you so very much. I want to thank the folks in Monterey, the Office of Convention and Visitor Bureaus. I am in the process of relocating from Washington, D.C. to San Antonio, Texas. So you are now a short hop away, and I look forward to coming back as a tourist. So thank you. Also wanted to make sure, Julio Valdez, for making it such easy to come here today. Wanted to also acknowledge Juan Carlos Calderon from Tabasco, you're here, who is one of our most recent DMAP accreditation, which I'll touch on in a bit. But we'll be celebrating him at our annual convention along with the other new DMAP accredited agencies. So, this is me. I do want to say one thing. I come at this from a totally different background than most people. I've never worked at a hotel. I don't do marketing. My background is politics. I worked my first political campaign when I was 12 years old, fell in love with that, and went to continue that in Chicago, Illinois, ended up working for the Illinois Speaker of the House, career progressed, and then I got a job working for the Metropolitan Pier and Exhibition Authority, which actually runs the convention center on Navy Pier, the #1 tourist attraction in Chicago, and absolutely fell in love with this industry. It is a fascinating industry. It's an amazing industry. So while I've always maintained one foot in politics, I definitely put the other foot in convention and tourism. I am now currently with the Destinations International. To those of you who do not know us, we are the International Trade Association for destination organizations. While we participate in any industry coalition that we can, our focus is very narrowly focused on destination organizations, DMOs, convention and visitor bureaus. We also have a foundation, which is also very important because it actually funds most of the work that I do. It's our charitable arm, and it's played a very important role in developing what we're doing. One of the things we've spent a lot of time doing as of late is looking at destination organizations from the outside. So many of our members have had trouble maintaining their existence, achieving funding. They have lost funding. They have had their funding cut back. They've had their funding frozen. They have been investigated by their government partners. They have found themselves in the newspapers in most unflattering ways. And despite our early efforts, particularly led by myself as the Chief Advocacy Officer for Destinations International, seemed to be making no headway. In fact, it seemed like we were losing ground. So like I said, my staff and I spent several years, actually, looking at destination organizations from the outside, looking at it from the same point of view that your residents would look at it, your elected officials would look at it. All the people who don't actually know what goes on the internal workings of a destination organization. The people who don't understand your measurements, they don't understand your purpose, and in fact, many of them think, oh, it's corporate welfare. You're just in the business to fill hotel rooms. For the record, if you're just in the business to fill hotel rooms, with all due respect to the hoteliers, you are corporate welfare. But your mission is so much broader, and let me talk about that. One of the problems that we are facing, obviously, is tight government budgets. Destination organization budgets seem to be the ideal target for any elected official who wanted to cut back the budget, or worse yet, had a pet project they wanted to do, whether it be school construction, whether it be tax relief, whether it be an airport. They would take the money away from the destination organizations and send it to their way. And the way they would do that would be first to discredit the destination organization as not needed, as a waste of money, as a poor expenditure of money. And then they would move the money to their allocated source. That became, we were vulnerable to that because so many of our members failed in their fiduciary responsibilities. It's important to remember that as awesome as our industry is, we are promoting other people's properties with other people's money, and we're doing it by putting forward and protecting and nurturing and telling the story of a brand, which is this ethereal concept that is really made up of everyone in your destination, and therefore it's owned by everyone in your destination. Okay? Each one of those carries a fiduciary responsibility. Each one of those means that you have to show the respect for that, you have to explain what you're doing, but most importantly, you have to spend it wisely, and then you also have to involve them in the decisions. This led to the third one, lack of community relevance. Let me jump this down. So many of our destination organizations were operating in their own little silo. They were facing outward. They were talking to meeting planners, they were talking to conventioneers, they were talking to wedding planners or reunions or anyone who's planning something. They were talking to tourism media and people who book tours, anyone except the people in their own residence. That meant the residents had no idea what was going on inside that organization, which means they had no involvement with them, which means they had no ownership of the destination organization. And when it came time for a politician or other persons to attack the destination organization to take the money away, the hotels and the restaurants may scream, but no one else does, because they don't know what you do. I have heard so many times people in our industry say, not even my family understands what it is that I do. Have you said that? Think about that. If your family doesn't know what you do, that means your neighbors don't know what you do, which means your community doesn't know what you do, which means a good chance the elected officials don't even know what you do. And if they don't know what you do, they can't support you. The fourth thing we found is that our arguments that we used no longer resonated. We have built a career, we have built an industry on pointing out the return on investment, which is real and is incredible and can be year in and year out. But that's all we got, an ROI. Everyone has an ROI. Worse yet, if you're the one that produces the facts that show your ROI, then they feel free not to trust it. When I used to work on the legislative side, if someone walked in and said, this is what my stats tell me, I would challenge that. Where's your independent source? But worse yet, while we are talking about a very logical argument about return on investment, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Get in front of a venture capitalist, you explain the money that comes back based on the investment, they will jump on board because it's a great return on investment. But look at the world today. We are very partisan. We are very split. We are very emotional. People are afraid of the massive amount of change that is happening in the last 20, 30, 40 years. What I have seen in my lifetime is amazing. There was no personal computer. There was no cell phone. There was no IT jobs were obscure. There was no online communication. I mean, the three greatest inventions in my lifetime, the cell phone, which is basically a small computer, the internet, which now lets everyone communicate with everyone, and actually the third one is wheels on luggage. So much easier to travel. But But in a time when we thought the internet would bring us all together, it actually pushed us farther apart. And today, people are gathering in their groups based on identity and making decisions based on their emotions. Now, we have always used emotions in making our decisions, but now it is in the forefront. So when you walk in and make a very intellectual argument, a very rational argument about why investing in destination organizations is a good thing, they're not going to hear you. A logical argument will not beat an emotional argument, in the same way that an emotional argument won't beat a logical argument. What people are doing is making their decisions based on emotion, and then they're going out and finding facts for that. I'll get in trouble, but we just had a 4-year administration based on that principle. Anyway, this has to change, and most of us have not changed. So what we did is go back and try and figure out what is it we were in the business to do in the first place. And when destination organizations were created some, 100+ years ago, they were created by stakeholders within the community. They were created by business leaders and hospitality leaders and government and civic leaders who came together and said, hey, bringing people to our town is a great idea. Bringing conventions to our town is a great idea. Not only because they bring money, but it's a way of introducing our community to the world. It's a way of saying, this is a place you should be aware of. This is a place you should come to. This is a place you should be investing in. You should open a business here. This is a place you can live. That's the whole purpose. And somehow we lost all that. So we asked 4 questions. What is the community need today that we're trying to solve? And the reason we're asking these specific questions is because these are the questions that you can ask about education, first responders, utilities, anything that's called a public good, anything that the whole community says, we should have education. Education makes people better citizens, better workers. It makes them better people. So we will have public education. We will fund private education. Education is good. So how do you get them to say, we should have destination promotion? Destination promotion, try that again. Destination promotion is important. It's something we should be doing. It comes back to these 4 questions. What's the community need that exists out there? And thanks to the internet and everyone's little cell phone, the most important thing is, in today's globalized, networked world, every community, no matter how small, is actually competing with every other community in the world. I cannot tell you how many small communities that I am aware of who are actually competing with other communities in the world. They have found their niche, and they have put them forward, and they are succeeding. You're competing for visibility, your share of attention and respect. You're competing for tourists, you know that. But you're also competing for talent and customers. And every community is creating for business and investment and capital. That's the big need out there. So what's the solution to that? You need infrastructure, obviously. You need public space and transportation. You need people. You need education and utilities, all those other public goods. But that's not enough. See, in today's world, people have to know about a destination. They need to be able to find it when they're searching. They need to be impressed by it. There needs to be a positive brand that says, hey, that's someplace I want to go. That's interesting. And they must have that clear, positive image that is so strong that they themselves will come to visit, or they'll talk to other people about coming to visit, because they want to share that experience. So why are we the solution? It's what we do, right? We market, we promote, we sell. Most importantly, though, you are the holder of the destination brand. And if your stakeholders and your government doesn't know that, you need to let them know that. You're the branding experts. In today's competitive world, when everyone's looking on that machine, just trying to get that first impression, it's the brand that's most important. We also always have liked to say everything starts with a visit. I'm convinced now that everything starts with a brand, a good brand, which leads to a visit, which then leads people to want to live there, we want to work there, and leads business and investment to follow that. But it also means this, and again, apologies to the hoteliers in the room. God, I hope that's not for me. If you're in the business of putting heads in beds, you're going to fail at that mission. Heads in beds are very important measurement. The success and health of your hotel industry is a critical piece of your infrastructure to succeed. But your mission is so much broader than that. Every visitor is important, whether they stay in the hotel or not. Every impression is important. That's why your website is so valuable. And you know what? People expect you to be the destination expert. It's in your title. Start owning your website. Let people know that this is the official website of Monterey. Leads us to the final question. All three of those things, who are you helping, right? Who are you doing everything you're doing for? What are the things that we always talk about? The jobs we create, the economic activity we create, the taxes we produce. What is all that for? It's not for the hotels. It's for the residents. It's everyone in that community. What you are doing is incredibly hard and incredibly important because you're the basic building block of the economies in your destination. If your destination is not part of, or hopefully even in the center of an economic development strategy, then your economy is going to suffer. You're key. And what's more important, everyone needs to know that, including your family. You do good work. All right, it's all about helping the community. They are your first and primary customer. You put all those answers together and you get this. This is what we call the cornerstone statement. This is the ideology of destination promotion. This is the argument for public and community support of destination promotion. We're competing for our community, we're developing clear messages, we're developing that brand, we're positioning the community, and all of this is being done for the community, the residents. It's a public good. We released this statement in 2019. It's 21, and we've had this horrific event that's happened between there and then. And over the past 6 months or so, we've gone back and said, is this still relevant? What about the pandemic is going to create these dramatic changes that we haven't seen before? What is going to be changed in our world by the pandemic? And the answer is very little, okay? The pandemic actually didn't change a lot. What it did was speed everything up. It accelerated all the trends that were happening before. Now, when I released this statement, I thought it would take 4 to 10 years for all the destination organizations to make this pivot and get to this point. I'm now saying you should be there now. During the pandemic, you were forced to turn inward. You were forced to work with your community, and hopefully you did. Your website hopefully drove residents to restaurants and other events. You couldn't travel, so those were the people you had to talk to. And hopefully you don't stop doing that. Because it's that linkage with the communities and the locals that gives you the power. As someone who has spent a life in politics, the most important way, maybe not the easiest way, most important way to prevent politicians from flipping on you, to get politicians on your side, is to bypass them and get the residents on your side. Trust me, when the residents are for you, the politicians will follow. Okay, out of that came our new definition of what a destination organization was, and we still believe this to be true. We've only made some tweaks to it since 2019, but it's still very important. But something dawned on us as we were releasing all this stuff over the last year or so. We went back to the Cornerstone Statement as we were evaluating it, and we realized that embedded within the Cornerstone Statement is an industry vision statement. This is our vision. It's not about putting people in hotel rooms. It's not about people in restaurants, seats, what they call seats and seats. It's about successfully competing. Our mission statement, this is what you're doing out there. Every elected official should know that. If you give a tax break to a company to come to your area and relocate there, yeah, that's corporate welfare. But destination promotion is not that. Destination promotion is deciding whether your destination will succeed or not. It also is our About Us statement. I've said from the beginning that that Cornerstone statement is where your About Us statement should start. But this is our industry statement. In fact, what we're actually doing here is making an industry strategic plan. It's kind of cool. So what was missing? Values. Every plan should have values. This list actually took 2 years to put together. A lot of conversations, a lot of talking to people like you. So we had these 9, actually we had 8 on the board, which we were staring at over and over. And then we realized, trying to figure out what order to put them in, what way to identify them and define them, how to present them. And then we realized there's actually a roadmap there. There's actually an order to them. So this is what we're talking now. You're actually seeing this for the first time. This is what I'm going to present at an annual convention in 3 weeks. These are what I consider the 9 values that help you move to pivot from a traditional convention and visitor bureau to your destination's marketing organization, your destination organization. And it all starts with passion. This is one of the most passionate industries I have ever known. It's more passionate than politics, which is why I like being in both of those. Passionate about our destination. Passionate so much, think about it, that you take the time to learn about it. You take the time to tell everyone about it. You take time to try and fix it, make it better. You are so passionate about this organization, about your destination, that you want to make it better. Which then leads us to awareness. Once you're passionate about something, you need to know it inside and out. Any good destination organization, someone should be able to have a question, and someone in that destination organization should be able to answer it. Not just where the best restaurants are, but what's the highway that needs to be repaired? What's the bad things about our destination that need to be fixed? Where do people live? What do they care about? Why are they here? What are our histories? What are our cultures? What are the things that come together that make Monterey different from any other place in the world? Transparency. Before you can go out and actually do what you have to do, you need to earn trust. And one of those ways you do it is by being transparent. If you do not have an About Us section on your website that includes you telling your story, but also including your board of directors and how you operate, if you're private, your bylaws, if you're government, how you fit into the government structure, there should be a whole bunch of things. And we'll actually be releasing this at the annual convention too, a complete audit of all 600 destination organizations who are members of ours and what's lacking on their websites. By the way, we've only found one good website, perfect website so far. So you're in good company if you're not there. Inclusiveness. One of the worst things that can be said about a destination is by a resident within the destination when they say, and look at the marketing and promotion that's being done and have them say, that's not my community. That's not what I live in. Your destination has to represent every part of it. The good, the bad, the ugly. You got to fix the bad and the ugly, but it's all about that because everyone in that destination is part of the fabric of your destination, and everyone has to be involved. And those destinations that kind of put together that cookie cutter presentation of what they are, we're top on this list, we're on this top 10 list, we got this beautiful university, we got this downtown, we got food. And don't really delve into what makes up a destination, what makes up the communities within the destination, what makes up the neighborhoods. You're going to fall behind. It's all about bringing as many people involved in all the viewpoints. But it's also about engagement. Now, engagement is not talking at someone. It's telling them what you know and listening to what they know. It's an actual, co-equal conversation between you and another individual or you and another group, a destination organization and various neighborhoods. Those destination organizations that spend time listening to their constituents, your community, your neighbors, are the ones that will actually have the superior product and will have a broad base of support. Collaboration. You don't come. We're good. Okay. Collaboration. You need to come up with a solution that, a brand, a promotion that actually involves input from everyone. Miami just went through this. They conducted 14 town halls. They interviewed a huge number of people one-on-one. They invested them in their strategic plan. They then put all of that on their website. You can go to Miami, look for their strategic plan, and on that page are links to all those town halls. There's links to surveys they did and interviews they did. And they came up with a strategic plan that was not just what they thought the community wanted, it was actually what the community wanted. And it was not what you thought was the best way to promote a destination. I can think of numerous destinations, not to pick on Eureka, California, but we're going to pick on Eureka, California, who made the decision that in order to get people to come to Eureka, California, you must promote the redwoods. Redwoods, incredibly attractive thing to go see. Everyone should see it sometime. But it doesn't help the city of Eureka. Eureka wanted them to promote Eureka as a fun place to visit, a fun place to live, a place that was not only home of the redwoods, but on the wine community. They were actually at the forefront of cannabis development. There were a lot of things going on in Eureka. And because their C&VB did not promote that, did not buy into that, they defunded them. And frankly, they should have. There's numerous examples like that. But if you work together, not only with the customers, but also with your stakeholders, and also with your residents, if you take the time to survey what resident sentiment is, if you take the time to just ask simply, what is it you like about this destination? Long Island, New York, had a community where they were saying things like, all that extra money you produce for our tourism that I don't have to pay, I'll pay that in taxes. Now they're rich, but they would say, I'll pay that in taxes if you can get rid of the tourist. But they went back and talked to them all and said, what is it that you love about Long Island? What is it that you tell people about Long Island? And they developed a storyline and recreated their whole brand message, which pushed out the message that the residents wanted to talk about. And the opposition to the tourism, the opposition to the destination organization fell. They're in a really good place right now. Innovation. This is something we're really good at, right? We have been blown away by the information age almost as much, maybe more than any other industry out there. Music industry probably got blown up more than we did. The newspaper industry did, probably, the media industry. But we're definitely number 3. The way people travel, the way people find information, all the things you have to do to attract attention, totally different than it was 20 years ago. And we've adapted. And we will continue to adapt. But it also means going back to these values and making sure that all the changes we make are linked to these values because the values don't change. We love new ideas, we love fresh opinions, but we stick to those core values. Whether it's the industry core values that I'm laying out today, or whether it's the core values that you have as an organization, stick to those, and those should be based not only on what you think, but what the community thinks. Stewardship. Getting as many people to your destination for the sake of getting as many people to your destination and driving hotel tax revenue or whatever isn't the complete picture. You need to promote your community in a way that also protects the community. Not over too many tourists in this time of year and no tourists at that time of year. You've got to develop things with the idea that they're going to last, that they aid the community. You have to take this stewardship approach to it. It's a pretty big job, I know. But it's worth it. And that leads to relevance. By the time you got through the first 8, this one's a slam dunk. When you've become a community shared value, you're at the center of that discussion. You are included in any government conversation about what's happening in the community. You're part of the economic development strategy. Hopefully, you're dead center of it. The thing that I've heard most in the last 2 years about those last 15 months, 16 months, those destinations that pivoted and looked internally during the COVID pandemic all found themselves in conversations that they'd never been in before. They're now talking to civic leaders, not just at the top, but in every stage at level of government. There are communications people who have been talking weekly during COVID, and they're still talking. Because once everyone figured out what the destination organization could do, the assets they had at their hand, the information they have, think about it. Think of all the information you guys have. Hotel data, travel data, cell phone data. You have more information than most people have. You become extremely valuable and really important. You become relevant. You should be invited to that question. This is no longer about getting invited to the meeting. You should be an equity partner of your community's future. And if there's a meeting happening without you, damn it, barge your way right in. All right, coming to the home stretch here. This is farther than the home stretch. This is actually lifted from the Destination Next Future study. Also has not been released yet. It will be released at the annual convention in 3 weeks. I am pleased to say that not only did this happen in 2019 when we released the community shared value concept, but also again in 2021. Two lines of study and thought process and thought leadership going parallel but not together have come up with the same conclusion. Going in the future, destination organizations are probably one of the most important things they can do is align with government, community, and industry priorities to drive destination competitiveness and brand. I used to tell people before the pandemic that travel is in our blood. It's been with us from day one. If you Google early humans, you'll get a picture of a map that has a whole bunch of arrows saying where we traveled to. In our earliest existence, we ate, we drank, we hunted, we grew crops, we formed communities, we created ideas, and we traveled. We traveled from day one. And we were at the zenith of our career, of our industry. From day one in 2019, our industry was bigger than it had ever been in its whole existence from day one. You were creating jobs faster than anyone else. Almost all the new jobs that were being created, you were creating them at a pace much faster than everyone else. You were producing economic output that exceeded the growth in GDP. Borders were coming down. We were no longer talking about millions. We were talking about billions of people crossing and travel and getting to know each other. You were bigger. than any other industry. And then this all happened, which shows how vulnerable we are. I am convinced, though, that by making this pivot, by aligning yourself with the community and the industry and the government of your destination, not only will we return to new heights, we're going to get there quicker. Keep in mind, there are trillions of dollars sitting in people's savings accounts, and they want to travel. Governments, which we thought were going to be devastated, have been hurt, but not as bad as we thought. I honestly believe we are on the brink of our greatest moment in time. But it only works if everyone in the destination is in sync. The second part, we need to build the destination brand around the community's goals, values, and creative energy. Never has that been more important. The most important thing you have, more important than the knowledge you have, more important than the information you have in your research department, or from studies that were released earlier today, the most important thing you have is that brand. Own it, take charge of it, defend it, define it, tell stories about it. Because in the new world, it's the most important thing a community can have. And a successful brand should not only drive tourism, you should be able to build tourism campaigns off of it, but you should also be able to drive economic development and drive investment campaigns around it. It should be so important that every university wants to partner with you because it's going to help them attract high-level talent and great students. It should be so important that every major employer wants to tie to that brand because they need good workers. The government should want to tie to that brand because they want to attract investment, they want to attract new residents, new taxpayers. Everyone should be tied to that brand. We have been talking since maybe Mara Gass made that speech in 2018 about it all starts with a visit. If you build a place that people want to visit, they will come. And if you build a place where people want to visit, you'll build a place where people want to live. And if you build a place where people want to live, it means you built a place where people want to work. And if you build a place where people want to work, that means business has to follow, and you will invest in that destination. And it all keeps going in a big circle. I'm going to add a new step. It all starts with the brand. The brand makes people want to visit, which then leads to moving, which means to working, which means to invest, leads to investment. It's all about the brand. That's basically it. That's your future.